from your grave.
All right, it's time for the book review video. Wait a minute, I got this backwards. Why would anyone do that? That'd be so lame. And go. First up, Black is the Color. John Brunner, Pyramid Books, 1969, cover art by Jeff Jones. John Brunner, 1934 to 1995, was a UK author known primarily for science fiction, even though he dabbled in spy fiction, poetry, the occult, and sleaze.
I'm not a science fiction writer, quotes on and off. I'm a writer.
He's most famous for his novel Stand on Zanzibar, about the future dangers of an overpopulated world. I get the impression Brunner was into the swinging 60s movement, including the correlating social and political opinions of the time. He was a leading member of the National Council for the Abolition of Nuclear Tests.
I've never for a moment regretted the time and energy that I sank into CND, in particular the 4 months that my wife and I spent touring Europe with an exhibition about nuclear weapons. We went to 7 countries with it, and it had a lasting effect on my mind because we were living night and day with images of horror and destruction. But I came to the eventual conclusion that I could reach many more people by writing a story than by walking down the street with a banner.
So the basic premise here is Mark Hanwell is back in his hometown of London after a working trip from Spain. He wants to track down Louisa, a lounge singer he's fond of, who had written him while he was in Spain, and then eventually just kind of drifted off, stopped writing. He stumbles into a segregated all-black jazz club in Soho. He meets Barrett, the jazz guitar player of the club, who's not into segregation, who says, "Hey, come on in, buddy. Come on and hang out. I'm going to play you some tunes." While inside, Mark orally witnesses a voodoo session and then haphazardly makes fun of it on the way out. It seems that Mark has rubbed the club members the wrong way. But is that all there is to it? South African politics, racial tension, espionage, and conspiracies all fall on Mark's head, as they seem to have something to do with that voodoo club that he so innocently stumbled into. Black is the Color is written in a first-person narrative style, with the main character Mark communicating like a mix between Mickey Spillane and Jack Kerouac. The beat, slang, poetic, fragment prose in this at the beginning made my head hurt. I had no idea what he was talking about half the time, and after the first 20 pages, I stopped. I recollected myself. I got mentally prepared. I read Jack Kerouac when I was 20, like everyone else. I know how it goes. So once my mind was limber enough to accept the poeticness of it, it all made sense, and it was beautiful. As I was reading, I was also validated in this opinion as William S. Burroughs is name-dropped in the very beginning of the book, which I thought was kind of cool. Brunner was 35 in 1969, which should make him old enough to be around for the beats of the 50s, and then still with it enough to be hip to the hippies in the 60s, so it makes sense. Mark works for a successful writer named Harry, who never actually appears in the book, and I also never understand what it is exactly that Mark did for him. Harry sends him to Spain to talk to people and do research, I don't know. Harry does bankroll Mark's existence. It's very much like Magnum P.I. Robin Masters pays for Magnum's living expenses. Well, Magnum really doesn't do anything for Robin. And also, Robin Masters never appears in the show. So it kind of makes me wonder if someone from Magnum P.I. had maybe read this book and liked the idea of that. But I have no idea. The Mark character has a loner drifter persona. Yeah, he wants to find Louisa, and he does. It's not a spoiler, it's right at the beginning. And as much as he's eager to help her in her woes and considers like marriage the entire time, like, what would it be like if she just married me? That'd be great, my life would be great. He's also like quick to just totally dismiss the idea the second that he thinks that she might be interested in someone else. She's like, oh, she's talking to that guy? Well, that was good. I mean, you know, I guess I'll just get on with my life. Get it together, Mark. Focus, brother, focus. Likewise, the Louisa character has just left an abusive relationship. She's just kind of floating around homeless, staying with Mark for the time being. working part-time. They equally take turns moving the story forward, being vulnerable, knowledgeable, heroic, and mostly reckless. She's weird. She's, I guess not weird. She's kind of put out. She's just left her white South African boyfriend, who was into all this heavy dom sub stuff, with her being the unwilling submissive. It's kind of, I might, kind of rub some people the wrong way. But I mean, it's stating that it's bad, but it's in there of what goes on. It's kind of brutal. As he takes Louisa back to his apartment, he finds the trick bags filled with goofer dust, which is like grave dirt in a bag and other voodoo stuff. As Mark investigates and fends off the voodoo guys, it's revealed that it's more than just black magic. South African apartheid and racial dominance is at the forefront of this story. All the players in the story relate back to the central theme. It's all very connected. This isn't just some London underground hip beat jazz crossover. There is a political and sociological subtext. This book turns into an espionage thriller halfway through, and it does not leave the voodoo behind, which is important. So this checks so many boxes for me. It's almost unbelievable how perfect it was. It was also a nice change of pace to read a spy book that didn't have to do with the Cold War. It was about a completely different conflict. This book was just incredibly fun and exciting, and I might even learn something about the South African apartheid stuff, which I knew nothing about. Wow, I seem to admit that I know nothing about a lot of things in these videos. I probably shouldn't be putting this out there. We have a bonus book conspiracy entry here. There's a writer character in the book named Harry. Harry like Harry, and then his name is Harry. Harry. John Brunner is most known for writing science fiction. 12 years his senior and his science fiction author contemporary was U.S. writer Harry Harrison, who you know because you watched that Ebe special that I was involved in with my friends Pulp Mortem and Secret Fire Books. There's the link. Watch it after this. Finish watching this. Then you click on that for the Death World group review. Harrison and Brunner's stories appeared together when they first started out in August 1958 issue of Fantastic Fiction. Harrison wrote a book in 1966 called Make Room, about a future overpopulated world, which was made into the excellent movie Soylent Green. In 1968, Brunner published a book about an overpopulated world called Stand on Zanzibar. There is no way that these two did not know each other. In this book, the character Mark is always throwing out big words and saying how Harry would be proud of his new vocabulary. And I couldn't help but see this as some cheeky remark aimed at Harry Harrison, who at one point was an editor for a sci-fi anthology that Brunner was in. Did Harrison send him shitty notes about his vocabulary? Is this some inside joke between the two? Like, are they both in on it? Or are these subtle jabs? Or are these not so subtle jabs at Harry Harrison? Little, hey look, I used a big word. Hey, look at that, Harry, you'd be proud of me. After reading Death World, I got the impression that these are definitely shots fired. Brunner was probably sick of those notes. And Brunner was also known for being vocal about taking a stand against certain irresponsible sci-fi writers like L. Ron Hubbard. So it wouldn't shock me that he would put this in here as a screw you to Harry Harrison. But they could have been buddies, and it could have been good-natured ribbing. Either way, black is the color, 3, 4, 5 thumbs up.
I come to science fiction conventions. I travel to many countries, meet science fiction readers who speak diverse languages, who've read my books in Italian or Portuguese or German or Swedish. And one factor remains constant. I get feedback. I would far rather have feedback from people whose horizons are not limited by reading nothing but science fiction.
Next up, oh, this is floppy. Next up, Dead Man Dead by David Alexander, Dell, 1960, cover art, Robert McGuire. No pseudonyms here. David Alexander was his real name, a rarity around this era of crime fiction. He created his series character, Bart Hardin, in 1954 and had 8 entries in the series, with Dead Man Dead being the final entry. It was originally published in hardcover by New York Lippincott in 1959. Bart Hardin is a New York City newspaperman who writes for a sleazy paper called the Broadway Times that covers horse betting, boxing, and show business. In real life, Alexander had done a bit of the same, being a horse race sports writer for first the Kentucky-based Lexington Herald and then the Morning Telegraph in New York City. He had big dreams of becoming a mystery writer, so he enlists in the New York's Institute of Criminology to learn the tricks of the trade. This guy was not playing around. Who does that? His first novel, Murder in Black and White, was published in 1951, and from then on he would consistently publish books while simultaneously being involved in the world of horse racing. The basic premise: after a relaxing cruise ship vacation to the Caribbean, Bart Hardin and his actress girlfriend Carol Ann are back in New York City. An attempt is made on her life, and she thinks it's because of something she witnessed on the ship. Hardin's on the case, and it seems to have something to do with oversized puppets, a Calypso singer, and I'm sure everyone will be shocked by this, the mob. I love how the mob is like the biggest boogeyman of crime fiction of this era all the way up to the 70s. Like, was really the mob that involved in people's lives? Or is it just a fun, like, kind of crime monster? I found the Hardin character paradoxical. That's right. I'm expanding my vocabulary. Harry would be proud of me. Throughout the beginning of the cruise ship, Hardin comes off as straight and narrow. He's the upright everyman from every non-noir 50s black and white movie. He doles on Carol Ann, who is all but helpless, also a 50s trope. His love for her is turned up to 10, and it is mad corny. But back in New York, this dude is out all hours of the night, getting hammered, eating at the most disgusting greasy spoon diners. He's a gambling addict, and he personally knows mobsters. This was my first experience with the Hardin character, so I had no idea what his personality was like, and it was so weird to have it switch halfway through the book. All I could think of was, does Carol Ann know what this guy is really like? What's interesting in the book is it's not played like Hardin is leading a double life. It's all so commonplace. This is just what you did. Straight man by day, fucking raging alcoholic at night. Half of the supporting characters are cartoonish. We have this longshoreman mob guy who speaks in third person and says Rodney Dangerfield type stuff like, "You look like my grandmother, and she's been dead for 3 days."
I mean, that's the story of my life. No respect.
We have helpless Carol Ann, who spends almost the entire book hiding in her apartment or being guarded and is afraid of everything. And we have a Calypso singer who gives cryptic Calypso song lyrics as clues. The Hardin character, on the other hand, is quite interesting, and I never know what he's going to do, but he never ventures too far from his foundation to become ridiculous. There is a rich uncle to Carol Ann that I liked only because he reminded me of Stinky from the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes movie Dressed to Kill. He's just happy to be there. The puppeteer was enjoyably eccentric, shrouded in multiple mysteries. And we have a rich, racist old white lady. And when I say racist, I mean this black person cannot sit at my dinner table racist. A cliche character, yes, but that's what's great about this is this isn't some of the era unfortunateness. This is something that David Alexander put in here on purpose as a character trait to show how terrible of a person this woman is. David Alexander is a writer from the South in the 50s taking a stance against racism and working it cohesively into the plot. Hats off to you, Mr. Alexander. Oh, what a coincidence. 2 books. from an era known not to be the greatest, who took a stand against something that is talked about often today. The conclusion was a bit of a letdown. It was a total, oh, that's it? There was a wrap-up chapter that was pretty cheesy, you know, and here's what really happened. The cover art sold me Voodoo, but nary a view or do is committed. It sure is beautiful, though. Top-notch work from Robert McGuire. The bright red hair, her creamy skin, with the purple dress blending into the blue background. Perfection. It's worth owning just for this cover alone. It's like having a little painting in your house for you to enjoy whenever you like. This landed right down the middle of the enjoyability scale. It was entertaining, but not mind-blowing. It wouldn't stop me from checking out another Harden entry, but also I'm not running to the store with my wallet out. Not that I have a wallet, because I'm mature and keep my cards in this metal Jaws container. So does this get a thumbs up? Yeah, it's a 60. It's a 60 thumbs up. It's a drinking. It's a half-empty bottle. That's what this is. Last up, Rogue Agent by Jack Drake, Avon Books, 1991. Cover artist, unknown. I couldn't find it. Rogue Agent was a 6-part series that ran from 1991 to 1992. Jack Drake is a house name. The real writing of the series was done between 2 authors. Robert Tyne penned the first 2, and Bruce King the remaining 4. The basic premise: after a successful undercover assignment in Rome, CIA agent and Vietnam veteran John Payne is shuffled through bureaucratic channels to find himself in West Germany with an assignment to pick up an East German biophysicist defector that takes place across the Berlin Wall and into East Germany. What should have been an easy trip turns sour fast, and Payne discovers a double cross. A fellow agent is killed, and Payne is to blame. Payne has some higher-ups who would love to see him fail, and though he's only on administrative leave for the time being, there's more going on, as someone is out to make him look like a traitor, and he must clear his name outside the official chain of command. He's going rogue. He's a rogue agent. Payne is undercover at the very start of this, but you don't know that. He's described as his undercover character for a couple chapters. And what's hilarious is the physical description and the personality reminded me of the actor Joe Don Baker from the movie Mitchell. And I could not shake that sloppy, beer-chugging, good old boy persona throughout the rest of this book, which might have an effect on this review.
There's a police investigation going on here.
Oh, there is? I thought there was just a big slob walking around my house.
Gotta say, the excitement peaks early on this, on the barge in and out of East Germany. This is by far the most enjoyable part of the book, as the characters have just been introduced and you have no expectations or preconceived ideas of where the story is headed. I was pleasantly surprised by this turn of events and thought that maybe this book just had a clunky start and now we're on track. So unfortunately that wasn't the case. Once he's suspected of being a traitor, he kind of just meanders around Europe, drinking, sit around on the beach. He ponders how his first undercover sting relates to what happened in East Germany. At the halfway point, I still didn't know what the plot of this book was. I mean, obviously it has something to do with him being framed, but it's just so wishy-washy about it. It's more like he's on vacation than on the hunt. But eventually he does start tracking down clues, but just takes so long to get there. That being said, there are some enjoyable moments. There's a fair amount of tension towards the back when Payne realizes the setup is actually still occurring and the folks he's currently around are getting killed off. A guy tries to kill Payne with a saxophone. That was fun. He does some cool spy stuff, like how to legitimately get a new passport that seemed like something out of the Anarchist Cookbook. Like, should this author be putting this in print? Because it seemed very legit. A very legit crime. How to. Here you go. Here you go, kids. It wasn't really enough fun to redeem it, and they never give any more description to Payne's character, so I still have sloppy Joe Don Baker from Mitchell throughout this entire story. As far as the writing goes, it doesn't need to be beautifully written, obviously, the things I like, but this is real surface level stuff. It just, I don't know, it felt like I was reading a kid's book. So added bonus, it gets hokier as the story progresses into where it almost becomes a parody of itself, and it just keeps trying to make these jokes, and they're not funny, and it really started to get on my nerves, and it made me want to chuck it out the window. But the absolute worst part about this book is there is zero resolution. It just ends. To be continued. Absolutely nothing wrapped up, no conspiracy exposed, no suspects, nada. So what do we give it? We're going to give it a thumbs flatline pillow. It's a pillow thumb because we're sleeping. We're on vacation, just like John Payne. We're not solving this. We're not solving this mystery. We're just going to kick it around. We're just going to kick around Europe, enjoy ourselves. And that's it. Thanks for watching the entire time, because I know you did. And will you please hit the notification bell? That's the most important. I guess you could subscribe also. I don't know. Whatever. Everyone always turns it off by this point anyway. So who gives a shit what I say?
Let me again refer to my own experience vis-a-vis the audience for science fiction. There was a time when, if I went to a party and with a stranger, I got into the usual what do you do routine. And I said, I write. And she said, it could be a he, but it was usually due to trying to chat up an attractive bird. She said, really, what kind of thing do you write? I'd say, mostly science fiction. There would be one of two responses. Either she'd say, oh, groovy, I read a lot of science fiction, I never met anybody who wrote it before, which would be fine. Or else there would be a dead pause, and she'd say, oh, I don't read much science fiction, I'm afraid. But that, I think, has changed. Because now the response is far more likely to be, oh, groovy, I saw 2001. Or possibly the Andromeda Strain, or something of that kind. And I must say that this is very much of a conversation stopper.